And life is much more experiencing with conspiracy theories.
Yeah. First-time founders think product is king. Second-time founders, no distribution is king. Seasoned founders, no retention is the true king.
Build a very good product. Don't hold back on that. But you should know that the distribution probably is what will give you that advantage. You cannot. It's very hard to beat someone who has great distribution. In fact, there's a saying that Christianity is well known only second to Coca-Cola.
Dominic is laughing. You felt that seamless transition.
Just the cameo. I didn't even notice when it started.
you know, with years of practice, these things just come a bit more natural to you. You're getting there.
Switching on game face.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. This is the September Roundtable discussion, except this time we don't have a table due to things that were out of our control, but we are here and we're excited to be here. My name is Alice Kanjejo. I am your co-host of this segment. Introduce yourselves, boys.
Evans Munene, co-host.
Hey.
Dominic Mulinda, co-host.
Those are our new titles now. Yeah. I mean, aside from working in the tech space, this is what we like to do, unpack what's happening in the tech landscape. And today we have a lot to uncover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where do we begin? Usually we'll start by talking about the things that grabbed our attention the previous month. So who wants to start us off this time?
For me, I don't know why. I don't know what's happening these days, but the thing that grabbed my attention this week was just the politics. Mm-hmm. But I guess we can wrap up with that actually at the end. Yeah. But really, just what's happening in, I'd say the US politics, very quite interesting. And also Kenyan politics, which is where we're based as well. I think it's been quite an interesting one. And I'd say the only hot take I'd leave there is that I feel like the Kenyan public is the biggest loser this week, politically speaking, just because of everything that's happening this week. And this week, to be specific, in the context of the podcast, we just had our deputy president in Kenya have a vote of impeachment by the parliament. And while, in my opinion, there are much graver issues that should have been addressed, except for what we saw to be really petty politics that marshaled the whole house.
Literally.
For just a particular impeachment vote. But more pertinent issues are just being either completely ignored or intentionally ignored. So I feel like the Kenyan electorate, the Kenyan public, are the biggest losers politically this week, and that's been really piquing my attention.
Would you say that okay, granted we are the biggest losers, but would you say it is progressive from where we are from?
Progressing from where we're from.
Because I feel like we've been fighting a fight of, trying to change things in the government. Our influencers are trying to do the most to push for change. Would this be seen as a win or just like a part of the plan that this government?
I think it's a loss in the short term, but it's a win in the longer term. It's a loss in the short term with regards to the fact that there are so many second, third order effects that might go through with these grave things happening. And by the grave things I mean like there's a whole overhaul of trying to push for universal health coverage. The biggest issue that we're facing is that I feel like we're getting a loss in the short term, but it's kind of a win in the grander scheme of things. It's a win in the context where I think people are becoming more and more awake politically. We are beginning to interrogate very deeply. And you can see the groundswell. You can even see everything leading up to the impeachment efforts. It's just because of the things that are happening. But then I'd say it's a loss in the short term because of just the second and third order effect of things that are happening in the background that are not being addressed. Quite notably, the universal health coverage program that's supposed to be a replacement for what was previously called NHIF in Kenya and is now called SHIF. And I'd say beyond that, just like, the sale of like national public assets, things like GKA being privatized in a very shoddy, crony deal is also like something to be concerned about. So I'd say these are all things that are still happening right now, but the attention and the zeitgeist of the time is just on petty politics and impeaching the deputy governor for reasons that we would quite honestly like term a lot of the said elected individuals to be, like just guilty of as well. So yeah, that's the loss at the short term.
Okay. Well, Evans, do you have anything to add on to this, or do we wait until we get to the...
Nothing to add on to that.
Nothing to
be
add on
honest.
to that. Okay, got you. What caught my attention this week is the godfather of cryptos identity might have been compromised, Satoshi Nakamoto. There's been arguments here, but hear me out. HBO is doing a new documentary. The claims are saying that Peter Todd could be Satoshi Nakamoto. He's a Canadian programmer who basically the documentary claims that Satoshi made a statement, and then a couple of hours later, Peter made a statement that seemed like it was a continuation of what Satoshi was speaking on previously. Another reason to back that the possibility is that Colin Hobart, who is the person behind this documentary, has a history of exposing specific conspiracy theories and whatnot. So, I mean, what do you guys think? That really caught my attention. There's a documentary about it. Do we even want to know the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto? He's a very rich man. He started this whole thing, and I think it would put him into security concerns if this is the thing. But as a crypto community, is that even something that we would want to come out? I don't know. Dominic, you've been side-eyeing me when I talk about this story.
I have thoughts.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd say the first thing is, granted, I haven't watched the show yet, so I'm gonna leave the judgment of the merit of whatever the claims they're saying. I'd say number one, just right off the bat, I'm a skeptic because there have been so many claims to a bunch of guys who could possibly be Satoshi Nakamoto. That's one. Two, I think for blockchain in general, it's better that Satoshi is martyred. Like, it's better we don't know the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. So that's what I think should be the status.
What happens when Satoshi passes on?
No, nothing really. Literally the Bitcoin code is open source. Everyone can see there are 21 possible million Bitcoins that can be mined, and you can't go beyond that. But it's literally, it's on the scale of real numbers, so it can be as divisible as possible. And that scarcity is already ingrained in the code. So having the identity of Satoshi known puts a target on someone. And people are corruptible. People are easily... the whole promise of blockchain is to create a trustless system where we know the code, we can audit it. It's a verifiable public ledger. We don't need any central authority. So the identity of Satoshi being known centralizes the whole concept of like, this is the guy behind the white paper. This is the guy who made everything start. This is the guy from whom, all the other cool projects that are in the blockchain world, Ethereum and the rest of the projects were born because of the initial white paper for Bitcoin. So I think he did such a public service with his identity not being known. But I know the moment... for me, the only proof of the pudding in the identity of Satoshi is when the Bitcoins that are in the original wallet are moved. We can always track. We can, with tools like Chainalysis and everything, we can track, but it hasn't been moved yet.
Yeah.
So the only way the Peter guy can either way prove his identity is just signing a transaction of the original wallet. Like that's as simple as it comes. So I'm really curious to check out that documentary. I can't wait to check it out. But from what I've read already, that guy is already claiming he's not Satoshi. I mean, and it's a good thing if he is and he's saying he's not.
Let him just stay anonymous.
But anyway, there's I think $100 million worth of BTC in the original wallet. So this guy, if you're Satoshi and you've chosen not to use that, you're the ultimate selfless individual, to be honest.
Use that money.
Yeah, because right now
he had so many opportunities to cash out.
Yeah, he has
even throughout the lifetime.
Yeah,
all throughout its lifetime.
Wow.
And he's chosen not to.
And you know what? That he just wanted to create a change. That must have been someone who was very disappointed in how centralized finance works.
Oh yes, disappointed at centralized finance for sure.
Even just make the change and not be part of the profit of that change. But anyway.
That's why Peter, sus.
Bacha will see
But
what the
anyway,
documentary is saying.
we'll watch it.
You guys can watch it with us and then let us know in the comments what you guys think about that. Evans, do you have anything to add on to that one?
Just to agree with what Dominica said. It's been the greatest service to Bitcoin that we didn't need to attach it to any one person.
Yeah.
That's just it's an idea that many people latched onto and turned it into the biggest crypto project there is currently. So the longer you can stay that way, the better.
Because do you think if we looked for him, we could find him? Like, do you think that could be the solution of governments if they want to stop Bitcoin?
No.
Because it's decentralized, right?
And there are people who've been looking for over 10 years. So I'm very curious to see. I'm curious to see
if this person is ever
different
found,
thing. I mean, just go into YouTube and see Satoshi Nakamoto identity. There's a bunch of documentaries on different possible guys.
18-year-old, 16-year-old guy who was coding somewhere.
And life is much more experiencing with conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that. That's a good.
That's a good. You should put that in one of the on the matches.
Put that on a napkin.
We're gonna put that in the MTS match.
Conspiracies make life interesting.
Okay. What caught your attention this week?
What got my attention this week has been more of the Fisker Kalmar car company, and really a broader view of the electrical car industry and what that meant, the implications. The Fisker car company, I think, is going bankrupt. It's under I think it just sold all its, I think is it 30,000 cars? Was it 3,000 cars? All fleet to a car company. But it's also having a problem in the sense that since they're shutting down their servers, companies that cars that need to do recalls, that all those new cars that need to be reconfigured to new servers, that can't happen. And it's bringing to light the fact that we live in a time when you can't just buy a physical product and just own it. You somehow still need to be in this kind of a relationship with the provider, with the provider, with the manufacturer, and I think that's an L for the consumers.
Why exactly did they go down?
I can't say exactly why.
Okay.
Fisker is a company that has been there for quite some time, long before. They've been trying to do the
cars for
electric cars, these hybrid for so many years, and I think they've always been having challenges, and I think it relates back to one of the quotes that we used to share from a book we read, the 021, that said, a company that is messed up in its foundation cannot be fixed. So you really have to be careful. You can go through so many iterations, but if you've built on shaky ground,
I mean, OpenAI is a big one. I mean, and I know it's not part of our docket today, but the whole structuring thing with Sam Altman getting a big payout and how it's shaking things up because of guys who invested in the non-profit. OpenAI technically being closed there. Anyway, there's a lot of truth around when a company is messed up in its foundation. Like it's the chickens will roost at some point.
Just a small point to add on to this small AI conversation that we're having right now is, I was listening to a podcast, and I think what they were talking about is true, how mainstream AI is going to become and loses its sort of value, because everybody is going to be using, and everyone should be using AI in everything that they do, in the apps that they're making, they're integrating AI, and so almost sort of devaluing it, and so hence maybe the payout for Sam Altman it making sense. I don't know. What do you?
I think I fundamentally disagree with your perspective on AI being devalued or just being made very common.
Yeah.
Right. So my perspective on that is, I think AI is in a very interesting phase compared to I'd say the biggest parallel I could draw to it was blockchain, and how blockchain technology was really hyped up for 10 years because of what, the promise of Bitcoin. And I think the technology is still good, but it's not caught the same wave as what the AI hype has. Yeah. And the difference being, with AI, we are visibly seeing its application and its impact to, one, how we normally do things, to two, how the experience of just everyday products are made not just 1x but 10x better, some might argue. we'll probably be talking about other AI tools that have caught our attention. And that just goes on to say how I think the real value for AI right now is not going to be on the model level, because the model level, it's even better that no one person has monopoly over like the best model. Like they're all really good and marginally better than the other. That gives us the option and the freedom for, building agents on top of these models, building experiences and having the option. I mean, like we talked about Casa a couple of like maybe a month or 2 months ago as one of the cool products that we came across. But right now, a tool like Casa is now extremely OP as a development tool for many developers, giving you the option of the latest and best model to use in your work. And I mean, just getting to Twitter and see like what indie hackers are doing with a tool like Casa, building products in a week, building 3 products in a week or something, shipping so many features in a day, what could fundamentally take. And you have at your fingertips all these different, like you have Llama, you have Claude, you have OpenAI's latest model that's just the next best and great. Like there's too much value coming out of this. In terms of being minted at the point where at the model level, that's questionable. And I think it's good that companies like Meta just coming and making them like, open source and stuff like that. It brings in competition, but I think the value for it really is going to be in the products and services that use it. So it's too early to say AI is a hype or not going to like have a lot of value. I think it's just at the beginning. Yeah, I think both can coexist. Yeah. Time will tell.
Time will tell. And speaking of AI, that was actually one of our main topics of discussion. We are going to be getting into NotebookLM, but before we get into that, it is your reminder to subscribe if you've reached this far into the video, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or any of the major listening platforms. Subscribing just gets more audiences to know about us and hear these wonderful conversations that we're having right now. And also you can check out our website at www.mtsafrica.co, and you can subscribe to our newsletters at mtsafrica.co/join. Lots of good things happening also on our socials, My Tech Story Africa everywhere. Needed to put that out of the way. And now let's get into the deep dive. And that is first topic of discussion, NotebookLM. For those who don't know, NotebookLM is an AI-powered research assistant that has been developed by Google, and it basically uses the documents that you upload to train in specialized AI. Now, the company, Google, first announced NotebookLM under the Project Tailwind back in June 2023. Before making it available to everyone above the age of 18 in the US last December. And now it is available in over 200 countries and in more than 108 languages. This is a big deal. And Evans, I want you to be the first one to talk to us about what your thoughts on NotebookLM.
When I saw, when I was checking it out and seeing how you can upload documents, PDFs and how that generates something so interesting as a podcast. It just got me thinking around what really is innovation. What does it really mean for something to be innovative? And my opinion is that innovation is something that changes how we think about something. For example, like an iPad really made us rethink, hey, computing can be an everyday thing. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at NotebookLM, I think for me it represents innovation in the sense that it's now fundamentally changing how we think, more so about audio and visual content. Mm-hmm. And I think it is making us look at it more in the same way that we look at books. For example, when I read a book, it could go anyone. When I read written content, it could be it could be a scientific paper, it could be a historical book, it could be nonfiction, it could be fiction, it could be poem. It's really up to the author to decide what that content looks like. But for the longest time, of course, pictures and videos and audio were seen as just as representation of fact, of history. This happened, and so when I look at a picture and I see the three of us sitting, in a room, I know on a certain date these three people met in a room. But I think AI will see the change in our perception as a culture on both audio and visual content. Yeah. To look at the same way that we look at books, where hey, this could have happened. Yeah. This could just be someone's imaginations. And so we'll treat it the same way that we do books, where we don't really know what it is. We have to engage with it first.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I think it's innovative in so much as it has changed our perception of audio and visual content.
Before Dom chimes in, actually, what we're going to do is add a clip that maybe gives you a slight preview of what
NotebookLM is.
Okay, so muscle growth. Right. We're talking serious transformations, like those incredible before and after photos you see.
Yeah, the ones that make you do a double take.
Exactly. And the best part is, this isn't about luck or some magic formula. We're diving into the science behind it all.
Because when it comes to building muscle, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
My thoughts on NotebookLM, I am genuinely very excited about it. I think if I would piggyback on what Evans has said, when you think about innovation, for me, I think NotebookLM is a step forward in rethinking, one, note-taking. Like, we're so used to note-taking apps. Think about note-taking apps that you use, like the Notions and the Evernotes. You're always taking notes on different things, but when do you actually ever go back to it? So that's like reading and studying through the notes that you've taken.
Yeah.
Not many people.
Yeah.
I'd say a really small percentage of people go back to those things. I think about it in the context of students who are studying and are curating multiple resources in terms of like research papers and everything. I think the way we've been thinking about acquiring knowledge in general has always been very modularized, in the context where you find a source that you need to study, you study that source, you synthesize that information, and then maybe you add on a different source, study it through, synthesize the same information. This gives a very interesting, modulation in how we synthesize information. And I think for me, that's the key information. That's the key innovation here. Now, we are so used to, the normal prompting for AI tools. Like, you put a source on ChatGPT, read the response and the summary. I think for people who love audiobooks, for people who love podcasts, especially audio content would be extremely mind-blowing. Now, take that in the context of bringing in let's say today I want to know what is the effect of MSG to the human body. And I always argue about this, by the way, with a bunch of guys in the office. And guys will always say MSG is harmful. Some will say MSG isn't harmful. So you bring in like the 5 most cited research papers, throw it into that LLM, and receive that like as a 10-15 minute podcast on your drive to work. And that way you're like way smarter. You've synthesized the information that would take otherwise. Like, it can make us way smarter on things that are, let's say,
collect and
you're not studying, you're not trying
data.
to become a researcher in the space. And even if you are, it's a good way to prime yourself to like get the synthesis of the body of knowledge that's there in a particular field and be able to like move on with operational understanding. So just the possibility that now what was previously, quote unquote, hidden in papers, hidden in PDFs, can now be synthesized to like a 5-10 minute podcast that breaks down things. Oh my goodness. I can't even wait to do a notebook of the Kenyan Constitution, for instance. And now go through like, I just want this section. I just want to go through, let's say, the Financial Act, because I want to build a PSP and I want to understand the regulatory space. Now I do this, and let's say I pick all the acts that pertain to, let's say, a particular field. Do you know how much in fees you're paying to lawyers to just go and get consultation advice before you start getting, like, moving into a space? Let's say you're building a fintech. Let's say you're trying to get a license. You can just go straight to the source, get all the acts, and get the whole gist. Even if you pay for a lawyer, you can actually tell when they're giving you like some advice that's not substantial, because you've already synthesized the body of knowledge that they are also sourcing their consultation and advice from. Maybe they have more knowledge on the ground with regards to practice, but you will have the core, you'll have the constitution. So we can bypass, quote unquote, middle management of brokers of knowledge, and just go straight to the source. That was this
when I was in uni.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, that's many lecturers when you think about it. But hey, let's not go there. Let's not go there. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I don't want to poke the bear, but hey, like, okay, I can just get the body of work here,
Literally. And then
go listen to the podcast, miss the class,
Yeah.
How
and I
interesting
still have
is
everything.
university life now?
Exactly.
I really want to know.
Yeah.
Right.
That if you met someone who joined university, maybe they're like in second year or something, will they tell you that they feel like it's a breeze, or is it still difficult for them in so much as they don't have they still don't have that frame of reference
I think it's
that we have?
I think it's difficult
maybe it's
because
more
of.
effective.
I think
you
it's still
think about
it.
difficult
But like,
because
they have that
even with all the
compare-
tools, you're still stuck in the old ways of doing things.
Yeah.
You're still gonna do the same examination papers. You're still gonna do the same, assessed the same way. Like there's not fundamental. Like there's very marginal changes in how education is still being disseminated
Yeah.
in higher learning institutions. At least the ones that we know of, and like within our based on our local experience here, right? So I'd say it's more like I think there are definitely easier and smarter ways of now students to get things
Yeah,
done,
100%.
but I think they're still bound by the same rules of
There's some
engagement.
fundamentals that are so strong
If a
to change.
university do this as your project,
Yeah.
get an LM that you feed it like all the textbooks that you can in your school, then feed it all the the exam questions that have been
Have
there,
been-
so that it can learn how to generate exam questions for you to practice. I'm guessing
It actually has play around with the tool. It has something called a study guide. So you can put, let's say I'm a student and I know this is the body of content that I need to study for this particular unit in uni this year. And these are the previous exam papers. I can feed it all the different sources and it can give me like an apt study guide. It can give me a podcast
Timeline.
as podcast synthesis, like a 10, 15, 20 minute episode. Like there's so many things you can actually prompt as outputs based off the sources and the body of it. I mean, like I found that to be so impressive.
I think comparatively to what
that's a game changer in how we've delivered AI to this point.
Yeah, I think comparatively to what Google did with Gemini, this is definitely a step up from what we have for Gemini.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
also back to your point, I just wanted to add on what you said when it comes to referencing what you've done before with these different note-taking applications. It's not about who does it first, but who does it best. I think Notion, just a month or two ago, released an extra feature where you actually can reference different documents that you used previously in your docket to kind of guide you with the AI prompts that you're trying to do. But I think what NotebookLM has been able to do is, aside from the references, now this is just like what their focus is. And I think it's beautiful with what they've come up with. So I think this is something that people had. Maybe there's so many other probably smaller apps that we didn't know about. Comes to the point of capital and capitalization, but we don't want to get into that.
Super excited to see the kind of products that are going to come out.
Absolutely. This has definitely inspired a lot more people using LLMs. Yeah, let us know what you guys think about NotebookLM. I absolutely love it. I told you to give me a summary of my Tech Story Africa with all the documents that you can think of, and it's just fantastic. I think podcasters they might come for us, but for now, very happy to see how LLMs have progressed over time. Yeah. Do we go into the next topic of discussion?
Correct. Sure.
All right. The next thing we're talking about today is content creators now selling products and what the implications might be. This conversation came in as we started to notice more and more content creators are now selling products, and the famous one being by Logan Paul or the Prime Drinks, Logan Paul and KSI, I think.
Yeah.
Right now, they are facing an ongoing class action lawsuit for allegedly containing their drink containing harmful PFAS chemicals in Prime Hydration and excessive caffeine in Prime Energy. And this drink is mostly tailored towards the younger audience, that being an issue. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about this.
I think, at the beginning when we worked on our products, we used to believe that, hey, if we offer truly what is the best product in the market objectively, that we'd get an edge, an upper hand over the competition. But I think if we are to be truly more honest, I'd say that distribution matters so much more than the product.
Bro,
and so even for those who are working on whatever business, one, build a very good product. Don't hold back on that. But you should know that the distribution probably is what will give you that advantage. You cannot. It's very hard to beat someone who has great distribution. And essentially, this is what we mean when we talk about creators. What they're selling really isn't the product; it's the distribution. It's the fact that they have access to. They've primed a set of customers who are willing to buy their products on a dime. And we've mentioned YouTubers, but if you look at The Rock and other celebrities, more and more we're increasingly finding them either partnering or owning certain products, be it tequila, lifestyle brands,
It's true.
makeup, and
Even here locally, you get,
Yeah.
we have the Samantha Wines, we have the, what else do we have? We have Lydia KM, who is a famous influencer, selling self-help things going on. And they have the distribution, so it's easier for their product to sell.
Yeah, because in an increasing world where logistics is getting more and more easier to ship your products, distribution with regards to having the ready customers who are willing
To
buy your product that's where now the competitive edge is coming from.
Yeah.
And so it becomes an easy sell for someone who has already cultivated an audience, have people who listen and they value their opinion, or they keep up following up with them. It's much more straightforward for them to build a product than it is for someone who's building a product to try to cultivate an audience.
Okay. So I'd like to just add a small span in the works. I think I'm with you to that first point, but I read a tweet this week that got me thinking. So it said, first-time founders think product is king. Second-time founders know distribution is king.
I saw something like that on TikTok as well.
Seasoned founders know retention is the true king. Okay, I have kind of paraphrased it, but when you think about it, many people getting out of the hood with their first products, it's just as you said, you're trying to build the best product, the next more innovative product, and hoping that the customers will come. Yeah, and some do get there organically, many others fail, and that's just normal business, right? Many people now on the content creation side of things usually come at products from a point where they've built in distribution. And so they believe if I give them a product, it will sell. But now, the caveat now for me comes into the context of there are very few creators that I could trust with good products, because none of them really, it's like a double-edged sword. You need distribution just as importantly as you need
A good product.
a good product. And it's the same function as why, it's the same argument for why we need good marketing and you need good product development. Like, you can never kill when you have a good product and you have zero distribution stroke marketing. And even if it's organic marketing, like ones that you haven't paid for. So it's a twin sword of both. And even though content creators are getting into the space, like my biggest argument against that is really the quality of products. And now that's evident in like what's coming out,
Yeah.
Like what's coming out is that these guys, one, are not experts in the products that they're making. They know they have the distribution, but the quality of the products is just as good as how big their distribution level is. So gimmicky stuff. In fact, I'm personally not shocked with all the court cases that's happening with guys like Logan Paul. The quality, building really good quality products is just as important as having good distribution. And that's why retention is the ultimate king. Because retention is a proven set of like a product that sells itself because of returning customers, people coming back to buy. Those are people now who've built something beyond them. You see, and my biggest challenge with a lot of these creators is when you take out the creators, the products are actually just the same. Like they will try to say it's slightly better than the competitor. I mean, KSI after and Logan Paul. In fact, don't even get me started with Logan Paul. The number of projects that he started on the side
He
that are
has
just
had
very,
not one but
very,
two failed crypto.
yeah, like
schemes.
and that's normal. I mean, it's okay. Some of them he's even probably won the court cases and everything. But how he's even rebranded Prime?
Yeah.
With
I think
this
I'm going to
idea.
have to I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because
Actually.
using his case actually serves to prove the point
Mhm.
that you can have a very bad product, very bad reputation, But
Yeah.
if you cultivate the audience and you have the distribution,
Agreed.
the fact
And
that
that's why he
the
keeps
fact that these
doing
people
it.
have been watching him and his audience has been following him for years
They've-
means that retention is inbuilt.
I disagree on that.
Into the
I
product.
disagree because any point in time where he stops marketing the product, the sales are completely affected. Like it's like it's a case where I think okay, this is my personal opinion. Many content creators getting into products can build very short-term based products and services, but mostly products because most of the time they're just selling products. Like think about, okay, let me drive you back. Imagine in the 1990s and the zeitgeist of the day, the influence of the day is Michael Jackson. Do you remember any brand? He probably had brand deals. He probably was doing brand deals. He probably had even his own merchandise that he was selling. But do you remember any of his products? Do you remember him for being a businessman? That's my point is to speak to retention takes years of compounding organic growth where the product is actually genuinely good. Now, there are very few, I'd even say there are very few creators who cross that chasm.
Now,
Isn't the other day
again,
MKB tried to do the wallpaper thing and that was a whole situation in itself?
Well,
as well.
but his was more of like, okay, he did the app, and I mean, like just Twitter went on a rampage against it.
Again, I still have to disagree with you there because you said that when they stop marketing, their product goes down, and I think it's also the nature and the fact that if you're in this fast moving goods where you just buy once and you need again to food and all that. But if you consider like one of the biggest players in this case study on why you cannot never stop marketing, it's Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
These
but
guys have been
can
here.
Prime ever be Coca-Cola?
These
in
guys,
your opinion?
I'm saying these guys have been here for quite some time. We all know them. In fact, there's a saying that Christianity is well known only second to Coca-Cola, and yet every quarter they have like a new campaign. They can never stop marketing.
Correct.
And so that is what is inbuilt with the creators or the celebrities.
Let me ask you a question there. Just there on that thought. Do you think it's the marketing that comes before the product or the product that came before the marketing?
I think the marketing
comes after the product.
No, the marketing comes.
But from that moment, once you have the product, everything from that point is marketing.
I think marketing comes, the product comes in an idea form, but the moment you have that idea, distribution should be at the forefront of your mind. So marketing comes
Marketing is what keeps it now
and
going.
after. You have to have the marketing before and after the product.
See, what I'm trying to explain here, okay, at least from where I see it, is I agree with marketing comes after, but you see the foundation, the core of it is a product that is, you see, the marketing is there to keep reminding us and putting it in our minds, the forefront of the fact that, hey, if you're thirsty, drink a Coca-Cola. It's so cheap, it's so available, it's always here. There's a dominance of the product. It's almost like it's now ingrained into our minds. It's almost like there's a social wiring. Marketing serves to keep that product always as part of our habits, as part of our cycle. My problem about the creator-based product is that is the thing that they only focus on, but never really the quality. Like the products are always 1 to n. They're never 0 to 1. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they cannot be successful. I think they can be successful
that's true.
In the short term. But my argument would be, and as many creators actually still lose popularity or get phased out or they get older, like give them, let's say, a 10-year span of relevance. I would say very few products would outlast the 10-year span.
We're going to need to wrap this up soon, guys, but Evans, go ahead.
You see, that's true what you said. And the reason why we're talking about them is because we've seen how powerful marketing is. Again, it's the exception that proves the rule. They've become they've enjoyed a very great level of success in the short term, but it has to come crumbling down because of the fact that they didn't build that foundation of a good product. Or at least a standard product. Doesn't even need to be amazing, it just needs to be standard. So the fact that for a lot of, in this case, what we're saying, creators, they can focus so much on the marketing and get such success that they think that the marketing alone will carry the day, while ignoring or understanding the fact that the product also has to be worth it. But you see, if they had just gotten a good product, and again, not even amazing, just a standard product, we wouldn't even need to be talking about. We wouldn't be talking about this right now. These guys are the exception that are proving the rule that marketing alone can get you so far. until you get to a point where you can't continue to cheat the system.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's okay. Then we're in agreement there.
Yeah.
Because my agreement is that my argument is that it can only get you as far as but never. Very few will cross the chasm where it's now the product that is known for its own merit outside of the marketing.
I think it's such an irony because I think it's the same thing we do it in the other way around in some episodes we've had here is when you're talking to engineers and product designers, product managers, whatever, their focus is always on the product because that's what they're really good at. And the contrast is also the same for marketers. That's what they're really good at. So they try to do that the best and sometimes they compromise on the other. So it's all about finding a balance. The next story we have is about exploding pages. Now, at least 32 people were killed and thousands injured seriously after communication devices were used by the armed group Hezbollah dramatically exploding across Lebanon. And in their latest round of blasts, which happened on Wednesday, well, that is going to be a bit far back referencing, exploding walkie-talkies killed 20 and injured at least 450 people. Now, this talk tells us a lot about how technology is being integrated into civil war almost. So I don't know what you guys think about this. Like, how does this even affect the broader landscape of cybersecurity, especially in conflict-driven zones? What do you guys think? Dom, you want to go first, Evans?
I think I'll let Dom start. You want me to start? Okay. For me, what piqued my interest around this, and really more what's been going on, is that I was seeing two different aspects of how people employ technology. Where you can say Israel is very tech fast. We know about the Iron Dome and how it's able to hit rockets that are targeting its cities. Whereas I look at the opposite side, I'm saying that even with is it Hamas, Hezbollah, all these people that they're fighting with, they also take a different approach, which can also be very effective. Where you make it. Remember, it's always at the end a matter of cost. When even in wars, it boils down to logistics. How long can you keep this? Can you make war? Before one of you loses either the capability or the willingness to continue. And so you find that Israel goes heavy on the innovation side, building things and all that. Whereas Hamas, and the reason why these pages became a thing was because they were like, okay, perhaps we cannot compete on technology. We can't build tools that will keep our phone safe from the guys. So we'll take it a step down. And when you take a step down, it's much cheaper for us to continue waging war against them. And I'm also reminded, even when you look at, I think it was also mentioned in the war, Ukraine and Russia, where they're like, hey, we might not be able to have the military equipment at the same level as Russia, but we can have very cheap drones that can inflict as much damage. So it becomes a quantity. Hey, if we lower down the tech and our focus on innovation to be more about, we can build many small tools that cost us much less. So if I send you a rocket that costs $1,000 and you have to counter it with a rocket that costs $10,000, eventually you lose more.
You're losing
for every encounter.
For every $1,000 spent.
But then it still also goes to show that even with that approach, I think the miscalculation they made is that they assume that just because you take it a step lower, that the guys who are focusing more on the tech, that they also might not be able to. But that's more, again, towards intelligence and so on. But what was interesting to me was seeing how people can take different approaches towards when you're trying to fight, even in business. Like some people go very heavy on the innovation, tech. We need to be on the cutting edge. While others look at it and say, actually, when you take it a step back, be less tech, but get more resources to just win in terms of quantity.
I think that was.
Yeah, that's a good one. To be honest, I don't have much on the cyber warfare. I think it's just scary to me. Yeah. It's just heavily scary. Now, if I speak a little bit to the casualty side of things, WMDs are just weapons of mass destruction. For me, are just very scary in terms of how far we've come since what ended World War II. Like, the Nagasaki bombing.
Yeah.
Like, that was a small, I mean, like, Gideon can send you the reference to kind of just add the kiloton, capacity of the current nuclear warheads that are just sitting in. Like, this war could genuinely be ended by Israel dropping one nuke. in Lebanon, but the casualty, the impact, just the scale of damage that we'd be looking at. I think one test that was done was felt all over the earth. China did another test the other day, I think into the sea, and guys were so scared it became world news. And I'm just imagining they're not slowing down. There's no slowdown in like innovation around cyber warfare. Now, granted, I think a lot of what cyber warfare presents seeps into the general public in terms of innovation. Like a lot of things have been born out of wartime innovations. I think it's the same for Israel. Israel has become quite innovative because just the situation, the neighbors that they have had to surround themselves, like they're pretty much in hostile territory. And there are really small number. Almost everyone is able to be enlisted into the army at an arm's notice. But they know even with that, they don't have enough bodies to throw into like a numbers game. And so because of circumstances, like the amount of innovation that had to go in to make sure anything that can be possibly turned into a weapon is fully utilized as a weapon. And then the intelligence function of the Mossad is just scary. It's genuinely scary. Like when you read about how they did the Hezbollah attacks, how they attacked the leader, how all the main leaders of Hezbollah have been taken out in such targeted strikes, you become really genuinely scared about the state of the world that we're living in. And so that's just an area that I don't spend too much time.
It's very touchy.
But I empathize
I didn't
with the
think we would
situation
be
there.
living in this era. We would be living in such a civil war, in front of our eyes.
I mean, I don't know. I
These are
genuinely
things
think
I
it's a
just used to
failure.
use
It's a
from
failure on
grade
multiple fronts, because any further escalation of this thing, like you remember, I think there was a time we used to discuss about how war and human nature, we're just intertwined through history. Like any point in history, even when you look at Africa, and we didn't even have quote unquote the colonialists and everything, tribes were always warring against other tribes because conquest is always a really deep-seated need. I think it's a failure of international diplomacy that wars are still continuing, because
why did
we
we build
know
all those systems? Sorry.
Yeah, it's almost because I think we're holding each other at a stalemate situation where you know that I have nukes and I know that you have nukes, so let's not kill each other. And because we know of both our positions and the ability to end each other, we choose not to war. And so diplomacy becomes a requirement. It becomes an almost necessity. So at the point where things are going from 0 to 100 like this in the Middle East, it's a big failure of international diplomacy, and it's a big failure of the quote-unquote guys who consider themselves to be the international powers of the world, So the bodies, the UNs and the US and all those guys.
This is their time to shine.
Yeah. Anyway, it just goes
But I know
on
there's
ahead
a lot of political
but it's
things
deep.
that are
It's
going.
those differences are
If
so
it was
deep.
as easy, it would have been done
we
by
pray for
now.
peace,
And
man.
we pray for peace, and we pray for all those families who have lost. The deepest condolences to everybody who's been lost in the war. It's absolutely sad, and also just like you said, scary to think humans can go this far over warfare. But because we don't want to spend too much time on there, we're going to move to the next story, which is that felt a bit heavy. On to a lighter note, we are talking about Meta's new glasses. Now they introduced Orion, which they claim is the first true augmented reality glasses, and they announced this on September 25th. According to Meta, it feels like a regular pair of glasses with a massive capability of AR, and some of the key features are something like the capture button, open ear speakers, the touchpad, battery life, and they could be having prescriptions. Now they're not yet out in the market, but they do claim that they give Meta employees and select external audiences access to it to just give them time to learn, iterate, and improve the AR glasses over time. But what are your thoughts on this? I think this is something that Snapchat had tried to do previously, but it ended up not doing so good. Do you think that product adoption is going to be better this time? People have been a bit shy to really dive in and make profits eventually off of AR. But what do you guys think about this?
AR is a very interesting thing because it's one of the few products where you keep it's been on the news for so long. It always
Yeah.
resurges,
Right?
and you look at it and you're like,
Every
yeah, this is such a it looks like a nice toy, but
Looks like a nice toy.
yeah, because I'm not gonna walk out there with AR
But they
with
have
a Vision.
prescription.
But now
With the Vision Pro.
yes, no one's working out with the Vision Pro to add AR to their life. But you see now the difference that I think we're seeing with Meta is that they're seeing.
You are working out with Vision Pro.
No, it's so weird. Have you seen those guys with the
Yeah.
clear glass? It's
There's
you can't
okay,
do that.
there are people
You
who
can't
do that for content.
Yeah.
But the idea is that with what Meta is doing, they're trying to make it feel more unintrusive, where it's just part of your everyday.
I was also say it's Meta and Ray-Ban collaborating
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this. Mention that. Yeah. Mhm.
Meta and Ray-Ban. I think that's important because again, it's about people buying and feeling. Technology is, I think, at its best when it's not noticed. So if we can find a way to just keep having it do a lot, but scaling back in terms of how aware we are of it, you might find the people's willingness to adopt it just grows. Of course, it brings a lot of concerns with regards to privacy. And I was watching a video right after that where some people had found a way to connect with the current the ones that they have for streaming, where they connected to a few knowledge bases, where if I just look at someone, I can tell their name, where they live. And now you'll have people who we're getting to such a dystopia where by just looking at you, I can know much more about you than you'd want a stranger. You'd care for a stranger to know. And so that's very creepy.
Do you think that we're
about
going
it.
to live out most of the episodes on Black Mirror?
That's interesting. I
If
think
you can look at a person and know all the information about them just by looking at them and having
Yeah.
glasses on.
it actually does feel very dystopian in a sense, very Black Mirror-esque. I think a couple of things. I think right now, I think it's a really cool product. I think Meta showed that they are miles ahead of the AR game than actually what we thought with the Meta Quest, like that previous iteration of the Meta Quest, especially after Apple did the Vision Pro. I still think at this point for me, they still feel like toys. But I think the bigger thing about AR in general, or rather AR applications, at least even in the form factor of the glasses, I think for the general public, I feel like they're going to be such experience goods, right? Experience goods by the sense of, for many people, it's hard to imagine the use case, how it critically, improves our lives until you try it on, until you test it out, or until you see other people use it. So and I think they're like a few years out of them making this thing very consumer ready at a price that's very affordable by many people, because I think many people are copycats, to be honest, in how we buy products and how we buy goods. We have to wait to see people use it and then they're like, oh, it's the next trendy thing. But until we can be able to see that aspect of it coming out, at this point it's just a cool thing. It's a cool thing, it's a cool showcase. It showcases how far ahead in the AR game they are, but to me it still feels like a very grand toy. And I'm frankly not seeing why it's way better than phones, for instance. Maybe it's multimodal, it's just a different way to interface with the intelligent life, being able to access stuff, being able to get data. I actually don't know if I want to know everything about someone by just seeing them. I feel like it's I don't know, we're just kind of losing. We're losing.
But would you want someone
Awesome.
finding out about you by just seeing you?
That's even worse.
Exactly.
To be honest, that's even worse.
So now, for some people, that's what they
already are flying.
For bad actors.
Yeah, for bad actors.
I remember I was actually playing Watch Dogs. It's this game where you role play as a hacker, and you just walk around and you see an NPC. You point at them and you're given all the information.
The bio.
And I was looking at them being like, it's a nice game. It's silly, but. And now it's like,
man, Watch Dogs in real life.
It's like in real life. I can just look at someone and know things about them. And we also have to think about as an individual, can I actually opt out of all this? Can I escape?
Yeah. How does that change interactions, by the way, when you think about it? like it makes interactions way less authentic, in my opinion. Yeah, you're introducing yourself, acting as if you know him, but like, hey, I love what you do at MTS, Alice. Like, I don't know, dude. They just discovered about you like 30 seconds ago. In fact, they're reading.
They already have the script on how they're gonna approach
like,
you.
oh yeah,
and
she does this.
it's-
She's a podcast host. Blah blah blah. Hi, Alice.
I mean, to
Wow,
be fair, maybe it's
quite
just making it
interesting.
more manual than what we do now, which is go to someone's social media page. So
Well,
does it make it any different?
Well, fair enough. Fair
Not
enough.
unless you're someone
Fair
who's
enough.
not
Just
active on social media, then
stalking en
maybe
masse.
don't get the the glasses. I don't know. I'm sure they're thinking of ways to mitigate it.
Yeah,
without
for
it
sure,
having to, of course, just release it and then have issues coming out. But guys, I think we need to wrap up this episode soon, and that's why we're entering our new segment in the show where we're going to be covering our winners and losers of the month. I want to kick this off. We're going to start with the winners. For me, I don't know if it's a winner, Nico 50-50, but it's a winner for the digital nomads who are looking to actually come and work in Kenya. Now, according to Kenyan Wall Street, Kenya has introduced a digital nomad work permit and an ETA, making it easier for digital professionals and long-haul travelers to explore the country's unique tourism offerings. Now, Kenya's tourism earnings have reached a record high of 352.54 billion Kenyan shillings in 2023. I don't know how I feel about this. I was just telling the team here before that we've been actually noticing a lot more foreigners coming into Nairobi, which is good when it's limited. I'm curious to know, or I suspect my predictions are in 3 to 5 years we might have a similar issue to what Canada is having right now, which is too many people now coming into Kenya, and maybe I don't know how I feel about that. Almost like over gentrification of the country. A lot of things come with a lot of expats coming into the country. But for now, it's a win of the week. Digital nomads, if you're looking to work into Kenya, there's now an opportunity for you to do that. And I think a lot of African countries, quite frankly, don't have this. So this is also progressive on our end.
Yeah, I'm generally
Short
for
comments.
it. I'm generally for it.
You're for it.
I approve of people entering through the front door, never through the back door. And provided they're coming to live here, spend here, build businesses here,
True.
that's more opportunities for the guys who
For
are
us.
here. It's better than what we currently, the status of what we have. And if somebody's coming in as a nomad, they're coming in already set up, already with an opportunity, or ready to establish an opportunity. So it's a win-win for the guys who are here. I say welcome. Bring them in, bring them on. Let's get that talent.
I'm fearful of the real estate market.
Yeah?
I'm fearful of the real estate market if that happens, though.
You mean for the guys who are here?
Yes.
Interesting. That's a valid
It's a
valid
valid
concern.
point. I think for the most part will still be
A win.
I think it'll still be a win. I think there's still a lot of
more
room for growth.
more players will come
Yeah.
in, globalization, there's a
Yeah.
lot more opportunities. So that is my win for the week. How about you guys?
For this particular week, I'd say for me the biggest win was just Google with NotebookLM. I know it's not a new product, but I have been really thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's
Fair point.
It's a win for students, man. It's a win for students. Let's use it while it's still free. Until they come and put in the price caps.
I feel there's a lot of content usually we have to dissect to find the right cuts, to find the right information, even people who do news. I feel just for a personal touch, I think it's definitely a win for us to try and just figure out where the information is coming from. So yeah, I'll take that for this week.
Okay. I'll be ready with the winners.
For the
The
losers,
next round.
for me, tied to NotebookLM, I'm fearful of the podcast feature. I feel like it is a lose of the month for podcasters. I feel like we've lost not for too long, but just for now, I felt a bit of a sense of fear, a shakiness of when NotebookLM, obviously two people having a conversation, they have the arms, the ad libs, it's very like, 4 or 5 years from now, again, like,
You can't tell the difference
what does
between
evolution look
an
like? They
AI
start
podcast.
making their voices more localized. So that makes me fearful of what the possibilities of that could be. But hopefully by then we have evolved.
Yeah. For me, lose of the week, I mentioned them, but once again, Fiska Kama. Okay, not Kama, Fiska. And the broader EV market. I think we're starting to see that's the fact that we know there's no industry that's so big that you'd be profitable by just participating in it. And the EV market, has been growing for a while now, and I think we're starting to see a decline. But it more so especially for this company, and also a lose for the consumer, because as we said at the beginning, gone are the days when I could just buy a product and just have it work. And I have guarantee that it will work for the rest of my life. A few months ago, Logitech was about to was thinking about charging a subscription for their mice.
Yeah.
And again, just feeds into the idea that from a business perspective, you always want to have that retention, that commitment, that relationship with your customer, that they're always paying you and you're always providing value. But from a customer perspective, some products you just want to buy and have that be the end of it. And we need to find, I think there's some products which we should mark as sacred, where if I'm buying a car, let me just buy a car.
Yeah.
And own a car. Let me not depend on the manufacturer's survival for me to keep driving it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I already said my losers of the week, the Kenyan electorate. So
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
are
stick
too.
with that because particularly in Kenya.
Yeah.
In this month of October, where the deputy president was impeached, we've had a short-term loss where our attention has been diverted from more critical issues. And so, we've been the losers of the week, actually the month, because it's been the zeitgeist for the last 2-3 weeks. This whole impeachment proceedings, while much more graver things are happening. I already said that, so we are the
And
losers
that's okay. The audience is the real losers because they would have loved to hear your winners and losers of the week. But every month they want to know.
This is not like
the people. The people are always your words, not mine. Just taking your words from the people. From your mouth. But no, guys, this has been an awesome episode. I think we're getting better at this. And I think the audience is loving this too. And if you've made it this far into the episode, thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. And let us know if you guys have any stories that you think we should be covering over the month. You can always send us an email, reach to us on social media, leave some comments, and we'll be sure to maybe talk about them in the next episodes. We want to engage with you. We want to know more about what you guys want us to talk about, how we can improve this podcast. So learning from you would be amazing. So any last words from you guys?
No.
Keep building.
Keep building. And keep listening to MTS. And that being said, we shall see you in the next one. Adios.